I don't know what happened. I was waiting and it kept saying join meeting, like was waiting for it to be started.
Well, it took we went right to 11:30, so it probably wasn't started.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
You should
So I
be
went out and went
co-host
back in.
now, and you should have rights to share. I'll watch the chat, but you can too, but I'll keep an eye on the chat box too. And
Okay.
Ashley says, "Hi, Claire." Uh,
Hi, Ashley.
well, so good to have everybody here. I don't want to take up too much time because this is our last session of the day. I mean, that was a quick 3 hours for me. But Claire West is presenting about Edulastic, and the subtitle is Where Now Meets Next. So I'm really curious on how that's going to look. And also, Claire is one of our EPIC teachers, and she's from Pikeville Independent. So, Claire, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Hi, I'm Claire West. I know several of you. Let me share my screen here and get right into my presentation. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So I just wanted to tell you just a little bit about me. I'm Claire West. I've been teaching for about 17 years, and I teach at Pikeville Elementary School. Right now, I'm teaching 5th grade social studies, which is a tested area, and I had been teaching 8th grade social studies, which is also a tested area. Um, and I am in EPIC. Um, but the pictures on the side there, that's my husband and me and my son, and we won the football Class A state championship this year. So that was at that. And then the other two things I'm really proud of because last year I became a grandmother of two. um, the one on the left is my granddaughter Elena that was born in May, and then December 28th we got Tatum, which is my grandson. So that's a whole new thing for me. But I'm not grandma or mama. I'm going to be a Mimi. So, but I want to talk about Edulastic today, and I will share these slides with you. They do have links to take you um, to where the everything that I'm showing you is, and where now meets next. I didn't used to use Edulastic on my assessments, and now this is all I use, and I only quiz my students. I don't necessarily say I test my students. And one of the reasons why I do that is because I want them to learn how to take the test, not necessarily what's on the test, because I feel like that's a big part of when you look at the KSA. It's not necessarily what you taught, it's can they come up with the answer using analysis and those kind of things. So about Edulastic, just a little bit. It is an assessment platform. The writing teacher that teaches with me, she also uses it as well to collect her writing samples. Um, and there is a free version, and I used the free version for a couple years. And then once I experienced the paid version, my district wasn't going to pay for it the first time, and I was like, okay. And it really, the paid version is only 125 per teacher. So I thought, well, that's not really that much money for what I was getting with the paid version. And we're going to look at that just a little bit. And I'll talk about that in just a second. This link right here will take you to anything that the additional features included in Edulastic Premium, which is the paid version. And one of those is it will do text to talk for your IEP students. That way you don't have to have necessarily a reader to read their quizzes to them. All you have to do is have that on there and they can click on it, which is kind of what our students here are going to is the text to talk when they take the test instead of having a reader. There is an assessment library. I really don't use that as much. I can take questions from different tests that people have put on there, but I really try to create my own using KSA, the practice test, as like a guide for how I'm going to ask my questions. And by the way, if y'all have any questions while we're doing this, I just unmute and ask, or Jackie, if you don't care, just tell me if there's something in the chat. Logging in though, I wanted kind of to stress this a little bit because my students have had some issues with logging in with Clever. If you have Clever, sometimes there's a little glitch in that. And when you create your classes using Google Classroom, if you don't log in with the Google password, the Clever gives them another one and it makes it not show up for some reason. So I always tell mine, just as you log in with Google, and it seems to do better, because Clever does have some issues when you import rosters from Google Classroom. When you create your own test, you have several different formats you can look for. Mostly what I create is creating it from scratch. And this is what I use with most of my quizzes. There is a PDF form for a snap quiz. You can do video quizzes if you want. And I haven't used this one yet, but the AI Smart Build, I'm going to look into that because that's kind of new to me too. The types of items that you can create when you get to the test, obviously there is multiple choice. There's also multiple select, fill in the blanks, drag and drop, writing, when you have passages to write about, passage-based. You can have up to 5 sources on the passage-based ones. And you can add a rubric. When you set up your settings, you can add your rubric to there if you have a writing prompt. You can highlight sentences. You can select from tables. And I wanted to show you one of my tests, just to kind of show you what I do with my students and how I word my questions and that kind of thing. So this would be one of the questions that doesn't have a passage with it. This is going to be one that is talking about primary sources. So they have to know what a primary source is. Lots of times I try to tie it to the content that we've been talking about at the time. And when I do that, it seems to make them a little bit more comfortable with it. This one has a passage on this side, and you can add your source. And then over here, you can ask your questions. You can have multiple questions for sources, so it wouldn't change the source, but it would change the question. There's drag and drop on KSA, so this helps them practice learning how to do that. This again is drag and drop. This one I have a source, and then I have some pictures over here in the question. And then that was one that had 2 questions that went with that source. This one of the features that I show them when we do this is that you can make these maps a little bit bigger to see. Down here at the bottom, when you have the 3 bars, that splits the screen, and then if you push this one, it makes it bigger. But I also teach my students, it might not let me up here, when you go to the tests that I create, I do it with a KSA format, so that it has up here the magnifier, and they can pull the magnifier down here and look at anything that they can't see very well. And that teaches them how to do that as well. Let me put this back in the middle. This one is a multiple select. Multiple select always has squares. And I usually teach them that there's usually about 2 answers that they would pick. So this is where I have one that has a passage based, and I only have 4 sources on this one. A lot of times I like to work my way up to the 5 sources. I teach 5th grade, and I don't know if any of you all teach 5th grade, but there's not a lot of social studies content that people are teaching from K4. And so sometimes I'll have to go back and cover some things and teach some things. So a lot of this is kind of new to students. So I try to go back and hit some things. So this one had like 3 or 4 questions on it. And then I've got my, this one is a short answer where they had to describe the economic impact, and they had to use these sources to be able to tell me the economic impact of the printing press.
Hey, Claire.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had a quick question.
Okay.
Do you pull your sources from anywhere? Is this stuff that you were like typing in yourself and just Googling images, or where do you pull your sources from?
I get a lot of my sources from JCPS. I get sources from, sometimes I'll pull from my Excel. Uh, sometimes, um, sometimes I'll pull from Library of Congress. Just uh, a lot of times, if somebody else has used one, then I might say, "Oh yeah, you know what? I might be able to put that one on my quiz so that the kids can see it." Um, but that's basically where I get them from.
Just a follow-up, Claire, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Melissa had asked, and I had the same question. Can you share this with another teacher? Because a lot of us are working in PLCs, and it looks like a lot to build a test, but it'd be great to be able to use it.
Yeah, you can share it with other teachers too, and I have shared it with, like, the writing teacher and I both teach science as well, and we do science quizzes on Edulastic as well, and we can share those with each other, and she can use it with her class, and then I can use it with my class, and I don't have to worry about her students, and she don't have to worry about mine. Let me get back to this one. All right, so in the settings, this is where you're really going to find most of your differences in the paid version and the free version. But in the settings, you get text to speech. You can choose whether you want to release the scores or not. A lot of times I don't release my scores initially. And so they don't really know what they made on the quiz, but I make sure that I go back and I talk about every question. This is how you should answer this question and stuff. And as we do that, then I'll release their score and let them see what they got on it. Normally, my quizzes are only worth around 15 points. So it's not something that's going to hurt their grade if they don't know how to do it yet, but it's just practice. You can add rubrics to it, like I said, and there are skip alerts that they'll give them. If they skip a question, it'll tell them, you skip this question. And do you want to go on before they even go on? They can go on and they can submit if they have skipped questions. However, they knew they did it because they have to click a button saying, okay. There's also these anti-cheating features that you can put in there. It'll shuffle your questions. It'll shuffle your answers. It will, if they go out of it more than once, then it will tell you. If they go out of it twice, it will shut them out and they won't be able to get back in. A lot of times on those Chromebooks, they have that magnifying glass on the side, and my kids will hit it occasionally. And when it gives them their warning saying your teacher knows that you've been out of this test, they'll come up and they'll say, I didn't mean to, and but it tells me that they've been out of it. And like I said, there is a KSA testing interface that actually looks like the KSA test. Let me go into my settings right here and I'll show you this part. So, well, you see how long I've had it. K-Prep was in when I named this type of setting. But this will let you allow text to speech. This is where you would choose your scores. You can give partial credit if it's a multi-answer question. You can give partial credit if you want to. You can time the test if you want to. These things right here, like the calculator, I don't really deal with that because I don't teach math. Some of you may. I do enable the magnifier. Disable the scratch pad because all they want to do is just mess with stuff then. And then I show the skip alert to them. And then it'll shuffle answer choices. You can make them complete it in one sitting, although sometimes mine don't get completely finished. And then you got this warning and block after 2. And if they're out of it for 10 seconds, it'll block them automatically. So if you don't want them trying to use, AI to generate their short answer, you can always do that. Let me show you one of the previews of my tests just to show you that it looks like KSA. And this is where you would find your.
I'm sorry, there's a question. Can you get a school or district license? There are 12 social studies teachers there.
Yes, you can get a district. That's what we have now. I don't have to pay for it anymore. I guess I've won them over. So they're paying for mine, and it's district wide. So remember how I said, yeah.
I'm sorry, Claire. Do you know how much that is for the school?
For the district, I do not. because I don't
And
take
I
care of that
think it's
part.
still based on enrollment.
Yeah, I think, and how many teachers are going to use it. Right now they're paying for it for our science and social studies teachers. I think that's the only teachers they're paying for it now. But I think they're trying to get a few more on board, but I'm not sure they're going to do it. This right here is what it would look like for a student, and this looks just like KSA. And then the magnifier I was talking about is right up here. It'd be under my name, and then there's my magnifier, and then I can just pull it wherever I want to see. One of the things I really like about Edulastic is that because it is like the KSA, it helps students get more familiar with how to take it. When I get them, they've only had it for 2 other years. They've had it for 3rd and 4th grade. And, you know, if you can take away the anxiety of a test, like, I don't know how to drag this. I don't know how to make this bigger so I can see it. And I'm not sure I want to ask my teacher during testing, for technical issues. Then I feel like you win points with them just by being able to take away the anxiety of, I got this big test to take. It's, kind of scary on a computer. And I feel like that has helped. I wasn't even here for testing last year. That's when my daughter had her baby. And some of the other teachers were telling me that my students were telling me that my tests were harder than the KSA for social studies, which is what I want. I want them to feel like they're a success when they take KSA. So I feel like that helps some too. So, this is the last session, so I had to put this on there. So, any other questions about it? Honestly, getting into it and trying to do it yourself and looking at it and looking at the I mean, you can look at the library. A lot of them are just multiple choice, which is not not what KSA is asking us to do now. So that's the reason why I kind of designed my own. The practice tests are on there from Pearson, so you can use those. And this one will give you how when they take the practice test um, on Pearson, it doesn't tell you the score; it only tells the student, and you don't get to see what they wrote on the extended response and the short answer. Edulastic will let you grade that, like to see it, to see where they're at. Let me pull up the chat here so I can see.
Yeah.
I just tapped in there. I wanted to kind of know what's the difference between the paid version and the free version, just for curiosity's sake.
The free version will let you make the test. It will let you have the different types of questions. It will let you have the sources. The paid version will let you have that text to speech for IEPs so that they can, you don't have to have a reader for them anymore. It will let you do the anti-cheating options where you shuffle the questions and you shuffle the answers. It tells you the warnings when they're out of it. So like it'll tell you if they go out and try to answer a question, by using the internet.
Claire, I have a question as well, because I've been using Edulastic for a few years now. And there are a couple of things I've noticed, and maybe a work around this, or maybe it's just something I'm doing that is causing it to be this way. But when I add items to a test, like items that are created already, that I go out and find, like if I search a topic and I find some questions, and I add them to my test that I'm creating, I haven't found a way that I could edit those.
I think if you clone them, you can edit them.
Well,
but you have to clone them first, I think.
I went to the other Edulastic training and she said you had to clone them and then you can make changes and edit.
Yeah.
But I can only do that if I don't add them to my test, right? Like I have to clone the question, make it my own. Because what I found is I can find, like if I put in a topic like Articles of Confederation, and I can find questions and I can just click add to test or whatever, add to test, and I'm building a test. then I can't even clone those or anything if they're already on a test. So is that something I have to do? Like each individual one, I have to clone that one? Have you
I
done
think
that?
you probably would. I haven't had to do that yet, but I would say that you would have to clone it before it'll let you any chance
Yeah.
of editing.
Okay. Because I mean, sometimes they're really good questions, or the basis of the question is really good, but I want to tweak it. But I found like after I have put my like, I guess my thought process was I add these and then I could go back and make them my own, but I don't find that to be true. And then my other, you may have mentioned this and I can't remember in the other one either, but on the, we have the premium paid version. And even if you click the allow passage reader, that will not work unless you go into your settings and enable that for all students. My collaborator and I had to troubleshoot that. Like there's several little things that I found that there are a couple of places you have to do things to make things work.
Right. With mine, I added individual students, whichever students had that IEP for a reader. And you do have to go in and add it to that individual student. But I didn't have to add it for everybody. One thing that with the text to speech, it will not read a picture. So if you put an image in there, it won't read that. It reads what you type in.
And
does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, I
Okay.
was just pointing that out. Like that was something my collaborator and I we had on the test, we'd allowed the passage reader, but it wouldn't pop up. Like we couldn't get it. And we realized we had not gone into our settings for that class and made it so that the text reader was enabled in the settings to begin with.
Right.
So I just thought that might save somebody some time of looking and having a test. And the other thing I found is the anti-cheating. Like you can use Edulastic for live scoring really easily, and my students really like that. But you can only, if you're going to do that, you can only shuffle the answer options. Don't shuffle the questions, because then when you look at
everybody's got a different one.
You look at the dashboard and you're like, oh, well, you need to go back and look at question 3. Well, their question 3 isn't the same as what I'm thinking question 3 is. And they're like, Miss Burton, this has to be correct. So I learned that the hard way when they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, so anyway,
well,
that saved somebody.
Mine have noticed an error in a question and they'll be like, there's a problem with question number 5. Like maybe I spelled a word wrong or I put it in the wrong place or something. And the other one will say, no, there's not. And it's because I've shuffled up the questions on them. And Anyway. But now when I review it with my class, all the questions are in order the way I go through them. After they've finished, it's in order.
Yeah. I really, if there are people on here who haven't used it, as Claire said, like, I think it's a phenomenal thing. And I use Claire's suggestions on her sources. I shared this with my PLC just the other day, again, Claire, about how you have them take the piece of paper for their sources and write down what it is and the topic, to help them when switching back between the sources on those multiple source question clusters.
That's hard. That is very hard for anybody.
Yeah. So anyway.
Claire, a couple people have had, wanting to think through some things. Are you open to, if someone wanted to email you and ask you a question, would you care? Actually, there's quite a few of you that are kind of experts in this or have used it quite a bit.
I actually have it on the end of my presentation.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'll share that.
I love that cat in Whitney Criswell's video. She's paying really close attention.
That's the difference between cats and dogs. My dog is curled up at the end of my feet, sound asleep.
Mine's sound asleep too.
So I shared that presentation. It has those links in it that go to those different things. One of the one on the first slide that I had, that link, it will tell you what's the difference between the paid and the non-paid version. I will tell you, I did have a little bit of trouble going from non-paid to the paid. Somehow, I don't know how this happened, but some of my quizzes were gone. So like I had to contact Edulastic so that they would put my quizzes back on there. But once you have your quizzes made, it is so easy for the next year for you to use it again.
We just have a couple minutes. Anybody have any last minute questions?
I have a quick question if you don't care.
Sure.
You may have already mentioned this, so I might have missed it. If I use this for other subjects other than social studies, like if I wanted to do it with a reading test, like we use Reading Wonders, we have some digital assessments that we can download as like PDF files. Do you know if I upload that as a PDF file, if it would generate those questions for me, or is that something that I have to take and just type those questions in and create my test from scratch?
Honestly, I've never used that PDF part, but that is one of the platforms that it has on there, is creating with a PDF. So it may do it for you.
Okay, thank you.
On that same note, our math teacher he like uploads his worksheets to Edulastic and then just makes a key where the students only type in the letter for the multiple choice, and it automatically grades like that because he has the key set up that way. So if you're a math teacher or if you want to upload worksheets, it is doable. I don't do that per se myself, but I do know it can be done.
I do want to say, I want to make sure, Amber, thank you for reminding me that we needed just a couple of seconds to talk about it. The evaluation link is in the chat box, and that's for the whole day. And hopefully you can remember the sessions that you attended and be able to, it's going to ask you a drop down question about which session you're talking about. So this one's a little bit more in depth than the others, but not too big a deal. And that's really all there is there. So we've got probably a minute and a half. Anybody else, any questions for me or Claire or anyone? I mean, don't call somebody out, but.
I've started playing around with the AI portion that Edulastic has added, and I think it's like a beta thing. So they're adding things as well. So I've gone in and said, generate a test or an assessment with this many questions and about this topic. And I've gotten a few things that I can use. I have to figure out how to make the prompt, what the formula is for making a prompt to get exactly what I'm looking for. So I don't know if the free version allows you to do that or not.
Not a question, but a comment. I just had to say my dog decided this was so interesting that he is caned and sat at the dining room table beside of me.
Also, Julie said Hero was not on the evaluation. I just told Jamie she'll probably add that to Sweet, so it shouldn't be a problem. Yes, Claire, great job. We appreciate all of you all for being here today, taking your Saturday or half of your Saturday and spending it with us. It sure flew by terribly quickly, and I feel like we learned a lot. So we'll follow up on today's session. I hope we do another one very soon, and many of you can present just like your fellow peers did today. So thank you again so much, and we'll see you all soon.
Hey, Jackie, don't exit yet. I have not gotten all the links out.
Gotcha.
My chat, you know how it jumps?
I'm going to put the
My
evaluation
chat's jumping,
link.
and every time I try to grab everything, it
Gotcha.
goes
I
away.
put the evaluation link back in there too.
Hold just a second. Thank you for
fine.
waiting.
No, you're fine.
I was trying to do the evaluation link, and when I got to the very bottom, I don't have Twitter, like a Twitter account or anything. but there's a star beside of what is your Twitter handle, and it won't let me submit unless I enter something there. So
I
what
would
should I
just
do?
enter, I don't have a handle, and if that won't work, just put @ no handle.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Get
Put
you a
at in
Twitter-
front of it, you're probably good.
Yeah, get you a Twitter handle. It'll be fun.
Hey,
And you can
Jackie,
get paid for it. Yes.
I've got a question. When will I know that we recorded these sessions because there's a few others that I'd like to go back and rewatch. Will they be available on the YouTube link for us?
Not necessarily, Amber, which I'm sorry. So I asked Dr. Evans, he said we're going to talk about it. So I'll let